Imagine you are standing on a dusty frontier road in the year 480 BC. A traveler approaches a military checkpoint. The guards strip him down, rip open his bags, and find nothing. He carries only 2 blank wooden folding tablets used for standard writing. They wave him through. That traveler was a Spartan spy. Hidden beneath a layer of wax on those boards was a carved warning that changed world history. Xerxes, the king of Persia, was launching a surprise invasion of Greece. Because that blank piece of wood slipped past the border guards, the Greek city-states armed themselves, built a defensive navy, and survived. We look back at ancient civilizations and see primitive worlds of stone, bronze, and muscle. We view our digital age as the dawn of secure communication, but for ancient empires, one of the biggest threats was distance. Because a single intercepted message could collapse a kingdom, expose a military campaign, or cause the assassination of a ruler. To survive, ancient commanders had to invent ways to protect information. They created networks of high-speed relays, data-splitting systems, invisible chemical inks, and mechanical encryption keys. So let us look at how they hid secrets in plain sight, starting with the human body itself. During the Ionian revolt against the Persian Empire, a ruler named Hystainos needed to send an urgent command to his son-in-law. He had to tell him to start an open rebellion. The roads were crawling with Persian guards, who executed anyone carrying suspicious documents. Hystainos chose a trusted slave and shaved the man's head smooth. Then he tattooed the entire military command onto his scalp. The slave sat in a room for months until his hair grew back, burying the secret message under his hair. The slave then walked across the border as an ordinary traveler, and when he arrived at his destination, the recipient shaved his head once more to read the text. This was history's earliest form of steganography, the art of concealing the existence of a message. But the time required for hair growth meant a critical military update could take months to arrive. It was useless for the fast pace of warfare, so other leaders chose faster methods. A Median courtier named Harpagus plotted to overthrow his king. He drafted a secret letter and slipped it into the body of a dead unskinned hare. His servants stitched the belly back together so that it looked like a normal hunting prize, and a courier dressed as a hunter carried the animal right past the royal guards. However, if a guard decided to slice open the animal or scrape away the wax tablet, the secret was exposed. Military commanders realized they needed to protect the information even if the physical carrier was captured. In the 5th century BC, the warriors of Sparta rolled out the scytale, one of the first physical transposition ciphers in history. It required 2 wooden cylinders of the same length and diameter. One stayed with the rulers in Sparta, and the other traveled into the field with the general. To write a message, the sender wrapped a long strip of leather around the baton. They made sure the edges met without overlapping. Then they wrote the message horizontally across the cylinder. When the strip was unwound, the text dissolved into a meaningless mess of letters. An enemy scout who ambushed the courier would find an ordinary belt of leather. To the untrained eye, it looked like clothing. If they suspected a trap, they would read a sequence of random characters. The only way to read the message was to wrap that strip around a cylinder of the same dimensions. But the scytale also suffered from a security flaw because the key space was small. A clever interceptor could construct a long tapered wooden cone, slide the leather strip down the length, and watch where the letters began to align. So, codemakers moved from scrambling letter positions to substituting the letters entirely. Julius Caesar faced a security crisis during his military campaigns in Europe. He was surrounded by hostile tribes and his couriers were routinely captured. Caesar responded by inventing a substitution cipher. He mapped out the entire Latin alphabet and shifted every letter forward by 3 positions. The letter A became D, B became E, C became F. To add an extra layer of protection, Caesar replaced the Roman characters with Greek letters. This forced any interceptor to figure out the shift value while also having knowledge of a foreign language. Now, while the Western world calculated letter shifts, ancient India codified cryptography as an essential skill of statecraft and personal privacy. The Kama Sutra lists Mlachita Vikalpa, the art of understanding writing in cipher, as a vital necessity for a sophisticated lifestyle. One of their primary methods was a language game called Gudayogya. Senders inserted random letters or syllables at fixed intervals throughout a message. When spoken aloud, it sounded like gibberish to bystanders. The true recipient, knowing the secret pattern, stripped away the dummy characters to reveal the meaning. This spoken cipher appears in the great Indian epics. When a palace faction plotted to burn a family of heroes alive inside a highly flammable house of lac, a wise sage used a secret language to deliver a public warning right in front of the conspirators. The targets understood the code, escaped into the night, and survived the trap. But as empires grew more in size, kings needed a way to transmit data across hundreds of miles at higher speeds. The Greek historian Polybius revolutionized warfare by inventing the Polybius square, a 5x5 grid that housed the entire alphabet. Every letter was converted into 2 coordinates, representing its row and column. For example, the letter H might become 2, 3. This took complex language and broke it down into a tiny set of symbols. It allowed military watchtowers to transmit text over distances using torch signals. Operators stood on mountaintops holding pairs of torches. Raising torches on the left side signaled the row number. Raising them on the right signaled the column. By flashing these coordinates sequentially, commanders sent tactical orders across mountain ranges, bypassing the dangers of the open road. Far to the east, Chinese military theorists realized that the greatest vulnerability was the human messenger. If a courier was captured and tortured, they would break. The 6 secret teachings documented the Yenshu protocol. When a general needed to send a plan across dangerous territory, the scribes drafted the message across a document that was divided into 3 vertical segments. The general then dispatched 3 couriers. Each traveled along a different route to reach the destination. If enemy forces ambushed one of the couriers, they would obtain only a fragmented strip of text, and without the other 2 pieces, the characters were unintelligible. Only when all 3 couriers arrived safely at the destination could the recipient align the segments to reconstruct the text. For simple commands, they abandoned text entirely and used secret authentication tallies made of wood or metal split down the middle. One half stayed with the emperor, and the other traveled with the general. The length of the tally carried a hidden meaning. Senders used 8 lengths to represent specific strategic outcomes. For example, a 1-foot tally signaled a complete victory. A 9-inch tally reported the destruction of an enemy army. A 5-inch tally was an urgent plea for supplies. The tallies were blank, so if an enemy captured a courier carrying a 7-inch rod, the object was useless because it contained no text to analyze. Yet all of these inventions meant nothing without a secure highway to transport them. The Persian Empire built the Chaparkhane, a high-speed postal relay system operating along the 2,500-kilometer Royal Road. They constructed over 100 fortified stations spaced at intervals of a single day's ride. The core security strategy of the Persian network was speed. Professional riders rode in continuous relays through rain, snow, and darkness. Upon reaching a station, a courier handed the sealed leather dispatch bag to a fresh rider with a rested horse. Imperial decrees traversed the entire kingdom in just 7 days, a journey that normally took 3 months on foot. This blistering pace left enemy scouts and bandits with almost no time to plan an ambush. When the Roman Empire built its own network, the cursus publicus, they took the opposite approach. They sacrificed speed to maximize information integrity. Instead of changing riders at every station, a single courier made the entire journey from start to finish. This slowed transmission down to 50 miles per day, but it eliminated the multiple handoffs of a relay system, keeping the chain of custody as small as possible to prevent internal betrayal or silent document theft. More importantly, it allowed the recipient to cross-examine the courier upon arrival. A governor could look the messenger in the eye, verify their identity, and ensure the message had not been altered under duress. To protect this highway, Rome deployed the frumentarii, an elite organization of officers who transformed into an empire-wide secret police force. They used their unrestricted access to local populations and shipping lanes to open private mail, monitor regional governors, and infiltrate conspiracies before they could spread. Eventually, the ancient world faded away, buried under the march of time. We replaced wax tablets with fiber optic cables, torch signals with digital packets, and wooden cylinders with complex algorithms. We look back at these ancient methods and treat them as historical quirks, but the core principles of modern digital security were fully mapped out thousands of years ago. The Spartan scytale is the grandfather of our modern encryption algorithms. The Chinese Yenshu protocol functions exactly like the packet switching that moves data across the internet today. The Roman cursus publicus established the absolute necessity of a secure chain of custody. Ancient humans faced a world of immense isolation and constant danger. They realized that a society is only as strong as its ability to trust its information. They used the limited tools of their era to build a secure network across deserts, oceans, and mountains. They proved that cybersecurity is an ancient, fundamental human survival program that built the modern world.